everybody, Sandee Payne here. I am so excited to bring you another episode of the PCS Project Podcast. As I promised before, I am going to be bringing on guests to the podcast from different military installations all over the country. And I am so excited today. I want to jump right in with Lauren Jerden. She is out in Colorado Springs. And I'm so excited to get started with her to introduce you to her and all of the great things Colorado Springs has to offer. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, I'm so excited.
Well, I want to jump right in. So tell me just like a little bit about you and your affiliation with military families as a realtor in the area, and kind of a little bit of your backstory about your experience with the military.
Yeah, so I actually grew up, I was not a military brat, but both of my parents were military brats, and they were like, we're not gonna, we're gonna settle down. So they did that. That was not for me, and it was like the allure of it was always very intriguing. So yeah, I met my husband, and he was fresh out of tech school, and that was, I was a baby. I was 21 years old, and we just got right to it. We got married, started the PCSing and the having kids, and
Yes. Gosh. So you've moved several times, and that's one of the things I love about linking up with agents around military installations, especially those of us who, we lived the life, and that's so important. I find that's really important when we're trying to help our military families and soldiers relocate. Like, we get it. Like, I always say, like, we have I don't know, there's like a weird connection, a weird tribe, a type of vibe amongst military families. I think we have some of our military families we've known best friends for years. I mean, we were with one of them and we were like, oh my gosh, we've literally been friends for almost 30 years. And there's just a connection. I don't know if there's that many people that I can say that about that I didn't meet within our military life. So
yeah, awesome. So there's definitely a kinship. I feel like you definitely sort of just like, you get it. Like,
it's like an instant. It's like, oh, you're a military spouse? Oh, cool. We're good. We're good. We understand each other. It's like an unspoken connection. So you've gotten to move several times. We moved 7 times. And I think when we were chatting, you've moved 4 times. So tell me, just like, what was that like for you between the first PCS and where you position yourself now?
I remember, headed into the first one, you tried to, and I was young, I was like 22, I think. And you're like researching and you're looking at all I don't remember if Pinterest was a thing back then, but like,
girl. When I got married, we didn't even have it. Like, we were like an AOL chat room dial up. So Pinterest was definitely not a thing.
Yeah, but it was like, and he had never PCS either, like when you go to basics, completely different. So yeah, we were like clueless. And so we felt like good going into it. Like we've done all the things, right? We had not done all the things. We were completely unprepared. Like nobody told me, that they would take the dirty dishes out of my sink and put them in a box. Like I thought, they would say, okay, those are dirty. She'll wash those and we'll pack those later. Yeah. They did not. So, you learn. And then by like the next time we were even more prepared. And by the 4th one, you're like, that's my do not pack room. Like, here's your snack bar. Like I was good by the last one.
Yeah, you've got all the Sharpies, you've got all the lists, you've got every tape around your wrist, the whole thing. The whole thing. I remember that too. I remember the first one. So we both lived separate until we got married. So that was like the first time I ever moved out of my parents' home, right? Besides college and whatever. So I didn't have very much. So, we get to our first duty station, Fort Drum, New York, ice cold. And, we didn't have a whole lot. So I think the first move for me was, I was 8 months pregnant for our first move with my daughter. And so I was kind of glad that I didn't have to do all the packing. But like you, like, they will pack the trash. Yeah. They will pack the dirty laundry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, same. And by the time we were seventh move, like we were living in Germany. I literally wrote a book. I wrote a book on military moving, that military house, move it, organize it, and decorate. I was like, I've got this down. I'm going to start sharing my tips and tricks. The biggest one that always annoyed me the most is when they use like your bed linens and your pillows to like pack around your TV. I'm like, you know how dusty a TV is, and now I have to go buy all new pillows. And back then, like I didn't have the money to just go buy pillows. So we got into the habit of, all the linens were like sorted in like trash bags, tied up. Like if you're gonna use it, you're gonna use it in the entirety. Just really, really funny. Just the way you kind of evolve. I know, like even talking to some people outside of the military, they're like, they come and pack. Like, oh yeah, we don't even take the pictures off the walls.
Yep.
They're like, that's crazy. And I'm like, I mean, there's a downside. Don't get me wrong. You also don't get a chance to kind of go through stuff and purge and declutter, because I always find that's part of the packing process. Is like, do I really want to take this, and kind of chuck it. So we didn't really have that opportunity until like our last retirement, forever move.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't prepared for like how fast it would go, because on my first PCS, I thought, well, two guys will come in here and we'll sort of, oh no, they are everywhere. Things are like you're not going to organize while it's happening.
No, it's happening. It's happening. And they're running from every room. Like you think it's going to be like, oh, all the kids, all my daughter's stuff is going to be in these, great boxes. Oh no, you get where you're going, you open the kids' room and you're like finding pots and pans, right? It's like, what is the madness? So I want to get to talking about this, because we could probably just like tell stories of stuff like that all day long. And everybody can relate. I'm sure the listeners can relate. And if they've never moved in the military, I hope they realize why we have such a kinship, in our experiences. But you are at Fort Carson, Colorado. I want to talk a little bit about Fort Carson in general. Now we're getting ready right now I feel like we're always somebody's always moving, but we're about to get into like our big PCS season, one of our big PCS seasons of the year. And a lot of people are going to get orders from all over the country, finding out they're coming to Fort Carson. So what would be the first couple things you'd be like, okay, first things first, like if you're coming to Fort Carson, this is what you need to start thinking about. What would you say about that?
So one thing that we are definitely experiencing is the city itself, outside of having 5 military installations, just the city in general of Colorado Springs and, of course, Denver to our north, it's growing so fast. Mm-hmm. So what we're finding is that housing is very difficult. I tell everybody, even if you're not even planning on living on post, get on the wait list, because what could it hurt? You
can always get off, right? You can always jump off if you find something else.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And we have 3 bases right here in the local area that do have on post housing. So I'm like, just get on all of them, so it won't hurt. Right. Because we do have a severe housing shortage right now.
Mm-hmm. I think that's everywhere. I really think that's everywhere, especially today. We're experiencing the same thing. And even our rental market is even really slim. There's just the influx of people coming. I don't know where we're going to put them off, honestly.
I know. Well, and I know not too terribly long ago, one of the papers here in the Springs did this article because there was a handful of Army families that had PCS'd out here, and actually after they realized they couldn't find a place to rent, they couldn't buy a home, whatever the case, they all bought RVs. And they were living in an RV, and they were like, we ran out of options. Like, what were we supposed to do? So yeah, I tell everybody, like, anytime somebody reaches out and they're like, well, we don't get there for another 8 months. I'm like, great. Like, cause we need the full 8 months to find you a house.
Yeah.
Like you cannot start too early.
Yeah, you can't. I agree with that. I know that some people, they're like, well, we're not really sure if that's exact. Things could change. I'm like, well, I'd rather have done all the research and have to back out of a million things than wait too long and then really just be honestly, just put in like kind of a desperate situation, really. Because here you are, you're like, your stuff's coming, you're coming, and like you have nowhere to go. So as far as like, I've been to Fort Carson once. And actually, I'm going to be there again this summer. But tell me a little bit how Carson's laid out from the base, the housing opportunities on base versus, actually getting into the springs, and kind of getting outside. What does that look like?
So Carson is huge, first of all. It is huge. It's definitely one of the biggest posts I've ever seen. I think last I heard they're at like 50 or 60,000 active duty, which is insane.
Yeah.
People like the way the base is laid out, like people say, well, I want to be 20 minutes to post. And I'm like, well, you could, depends on where you're going to work on post, right? Because if
Right.
you're at the airfield, I could get you 20 minutes to the gate, but you're another 20 minutes to the airfield,
Sure,
So
sure.
it is a huge, huge installation. It's a really nice installation. I feel like all of their facilities, like the hospital and the commissaries and things like, they're all really nice. The housing is meh, but they have a lot of it. And like I said, I'm a huge proponent for getting on the wait list, but yeah, Carson is huge. And then right here in the Springs, we've got the Air Force Academy as well. We've got Peterson Air Force Base, Schriever Air Force Base, and being stationed at Carson, you can live on any of the Air Force bases as well.
Oh, good. That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, so you have a lot of options,
Right.
and the Springs is, it's a big city, but then there's lots of small, like rural areas. If you're
Mm.
more like it, I find people all the time who are like, we're PCSing with 3 goats, or we're
Oh, geez.
PCSing with our horse. But no,
Chickens. But there's like a lot of chicken things going on here in
yeah,
Texas. I don't know what to
yeah,
say.
you're like bringing like a whole like farm. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of like rural areas around the city that are really
Mm.
beautiful that are still pretty affordable. If that's your vibe, yeah, there's and tons of stuff to do here. Tons and tons and tons. Prior to this, we were at a duty station that didn't have like a ton. We were at Eglin, in Florida. It just didn't have a ton of like museums and things like that. Carson
Okay.
is great for families. There's something every weekend. Every weekend in the city, there's something that you can do. So I have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we had a good time. We were there just visiting friends of ours that were there on post, and we did like Manitou Springs and those whatever
Yep.
the cliff dwellings, and
Yes.
we did all the things.
Yep.
We did the peak and everything.
Yep.
So about so what would you say? Because I know here at Fort Hood, like our average price point starting to shift, right? What would you say is kind of the range that you see of the housing that most military families buy? Like just to kind of think, okay, how is that going to compare to where they're coming from, maybe?
Right. Yeah. And that is one thing I feel like it is a little more expensive out here. So for most people, unless they're headed from like Hawaii or something, there is a little bit of sticker shock.
Right.
Um, it is a little bit more expensive out here. I think last week our average was $457.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so it is a little more
Okay.
expensive. Your BAH is considerably higher as well.
Sure, sure.
So that kind of helps make up for it. And then, like I said, there are lots of like smaller areas on the outskirts of town that are considerably cheaper.
Yeah, yeah,
But
good.
yeah, it is a little bit of a sticker shock.
Right.
But we haven't seen a slowdown. I've been here for 6 years. I know whenever we were headed this way, it was crazy to get a house, and it
Mhm.
hasn't changed.
Yeah. So, and the weather, because I know the weather is
Mhm.
super different than here in Texas. Like we don't really get snow, and
Yeah.
you all do. Do you find that has any insight to people, like when they're trying to figure out where to live? Like, does it affect the commute? Do they tend to like go to the more mountainous, regions where they can ski? Like, I would think that skiing and all of that is like a super
Yeah.
popular.
I mean, we're only even here in the Springs, we're 2.5 hours to, a really nice ski resort. You can get to Breckenridge, in about 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, down here we really get lucky. I am from Louisiana and I had never seen a snowflake until I moved here at 30 years old. So I was terrified, and I'm like, I'm preparing for my not. It's not like that.
Right.
The most we get really is it's mild. Our winters are mild. They're very cold, but we don't ever have like a foot of snow.
Okay.
So as far as that, like, and that's one nice thing too, is if you do choose to live on the outside of town, like you're not really going to be
He's stuck. Yeah.
okay.
So, thinking about moving, I know one of the big things that that I kind of always seem to be good at, I'm going to say that's kind of why I wrote the book and all that stuff, is that kind of getting my house into a home, because a lot of times we're only there for a short amount of time. So even if you're not purchasing and you're renting or you're living on post, the housing can be kind of like blah. And I remember the old school was like spray starch and fabric, right? To kind of like wallpaper a wall. I don't know if you ever tried that. That does not work. Any like funny things that like you tried that were like trendy when you were moving, or any new things? Because I just feel like, I don't know, people are getting really innovative with creative ways to have like really cool style and adding things to their homes that they can like take with them. Like, do you remember anything super weird, trendy that you tried versus today?
So one of we lived on base at Barksdale, and the house was really beautiful, but it's like you can't do your own like personalizing and stuff.
Right.
I contact papered my washer and dryer because they came with the house, honestly. So but they were like really old and like scratched up, but like I put contact paper on those. That was actually really cute. I did not ever, like all the people that would contact paper the countertops, I couldn't do that. I was terrible at it. Like always had bubbles in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I would always do my curtain rods with just like command hooks and like set the rod.
Yep. I remember.
No holes.
I was the bad one. I was the painter.
Oh, yeah,
I was the painter. I was like, I'll just repaint it. Like it's my therapy. Like I cannot do it. I will repaint. Mm-hmm. It's worth it to me.
I know it too now. Like it's funny now because I own my home here, but like I think it would have been really nice, all these groups and people post pictures of their homes on base, and I'm like, that is amazing.
I know. That's what I'm talking about. I think like you were talking about Pinterest earlier. Like I was so deprived. I mean, I only knew what was in the Martha Stewart magazines. You know what I mean? Like I'm so dating myself. Oh my gosh. But now, just seeing what people, it's so creative. It's just so creative. It almost, I'm not doing it. It almost makes me want to, go back in time and,
you're right, and
bring all these fun, creative things to life. And I was very big at sewing. I was a very good sewer. I don't know what the word is. Seamstress, I guess. I don't know. So I always was really good with like buying like cloth napkins and then like sewing them together and making like pillow covers, those types of things. If I wanted to change like patterns or color, I would just do it with like fabric. Like it was just kind of my temporary thing. What do you think, because we know what our families go through, or how do you think they feel about that when they're choosing a realtor? What is the importance of that? Like, I know it's really important. I feel like it's really important that they find a real estate agent if they're looking to buy or even sell, when they're ready to sell, whatever. Do you find that that's important? Like, I feel like that's important to other military families to kind of understand that I'm not just your realtor, but like I've been there, done that. Do you feel that that's an important aspect when people are doing their searching? Because there's that, I don't know how many agents are in your MLS. We're like 7,000 some, something like that. Like, how do you narrow it down? Like, do you feel that that's important?
I mean, I feel like it is. I know that for me personally, like I like to be, like I like to have sort of that common thread with buyers, and sellers. Like I sort of, and obviously because I've been in their shoes, like I definitely feel like I advocate like so much harder than maybe somebody who's like doesn't understand. And because it is hard. Like you have to understand these people are sometimes moving across the country or across the world. They're not going to have anybody waiting for them when they get there. They know nothing about the area. And so I find that like, I just sort of like, my heart kind of goes out to them because I know how stressful it can be.
Yeah.
I know how stressful it can be. And so that's why I'm like, yeah, like, you want me to measure and see if your grandma's hutch will fit in this dining room? Like, not a problem.
Yeah, kind of like we really become their support system through the process,
Yeah.
because they don't have anybody here with them. Yeah, I agree with that a ton.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about like what makes Fort Carson like unique. Like, are there any like seasonal events that are like, oh my gosh, you can't miss? Like, we have like the Blue Bonnets here in Texas. Like, you can't miss the Blue Bonnet festivals and those type. Like, what happens in Carson that like maybe people that don't live there, like, if you're only going to be here for 2 years, you've got to hit these things,
Well, on Post, they have every summer they have Summerfest, and they've actually gotten some pretty big name artists out there, Scott McCreery and stuff. So that's really cool, and it's free, obviously, to everybody, to all members. So that's cool. In the is it summer? Is it 4th of July or New Year's Eve? I think it's New Year's Eve. There's a group of hikers that will hike to the summit of Pikes Peak, and they carry all the fireworks in a backpack.
Oh, cool.
They like hike them up, and then they shoot them from the summit, which is really cool.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Yeah, there's really cool stuff. There's like a cowboy breakfast downtown, and they like serve pancakes. Like, it's like a griddle, like the size of a wagon, like a huge, like, old wagon.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
A lot of really cool stuff.
We were there. We went to, I can't remember the name of it. It was a pub of some type, and I had never been there before. And you got like a card when you went in, and all the taps were like across the wall, and you had to like touch you could only get so many ounces with this card. I can't remember, it was like 16 or something, but you had to like touch the little, what is that called? The little beer tap.
Yeah, right.
And measure, and it like, you could do 1 ounce or 2 ounces, and then it would, when you got to whatever your limit was, they'd come out and check on you. Like, just, I guess it was like your driving limit. But that was really cool, because sometimes I like to go to those kind of brewery, micro brew places, but I don't want to commit, to one particular thing. So I found that was really fun. I remember that, and I thought, oh my gosh, we need one of those around here. I think that would be.
And Colorado is, they're known for their breweries. So we have tons of breweries around here, tons of craft beer.
Do they do like pub crawl type events and things like that? Where you can like, see, like, that's what I imagine is just kind of like, you just jump from one to the other.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny.
You could find something every weekend.
Yeah. And that's good. I think it's hard when you live there. It's like anybody, like, you live there, you kind of just get in your routine, but when you get to a new duty station, it's always kind of fun to know, like, I was always like, well, what are the cultural things? Like, what is this area known for? Even when we lived overseas, I was always like, okay, we're traveling. I don't want to just do like all the tourist things. Like, I want to get a taxi cab driver and like, you show me life here. Right.
Yeah.
So that's
Colorado Springs is where all of the vast majority of the Olympic athletes train, so that, because we are at such a high altitude,
right.
If you can do your sport the best of the best at this altitude, you can absolutely do it at sea level.
Right. That makes sense.
We have the Olympic Museum here, and it's dirt cheap to go walk around, and it's really, really cool.
Wow, that sounds, I don't think we went to that. I don't remember that being on our list of, we did drive up to the peak. It was so windy. They almost had to close that top part. Yeah. Luckily we got up there, but you didn't want to get too close to the end, because it could lift you off your feet.
Yep.
But real quick, I want to kind of wrap up, like, what would you say would be like a few of your best PCSing tips, like to make a best of a move? These are some, like, either whether it be like an organizing something or just a preparation something. Like, I know with my kids, like, that was always a really big deal. Like, my attitude about moving just poured into the kids. And so was there anything ever that you found was like fun, or just a really useful tip that you're like, man, I'm going to do this every time?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just being very organized. Because like you said, when you get your things, you're in the throes of a new move and a new city, and you don't want to unpack with, unpack chaos, Barbie dolls and dirty pots. So yeah, just get organized, even if that just looks like putting things in the room they belong in, like this room's a disaster, but I know everything in here is my 6-year-old's toy. You know what I mean? Or belongs to her. Just be very organized. And for sure, everything that you don't want to end up in a box needs to be in one room, and you shut the door and lock it. Nothing gets packed out of this room. Make sure you know where your pets are. I had a client's cat made the move in her dryer.
Stop.
And she was fine. The cat was fine.
You're kidding. I hope they didn't go very far.
Yeah, I think they went from it was like Texas to Oklahoma or something.
Oh my gosh, that could have been disaster. Okay. Yeah. That probably takes the cake so far about the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
That got me.
Yeah, I think just being super organized, just being, which is hard, especially when there's people coming into your house and
yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I remember we used to do an inventory, take pictures of stuff, especially when we were doing the overseas moves, people are like, oh, it's inevitable. Everything wood's going to be broken. I'm like, no, I don't want that. I mean, we had our share of damage and things like that from moves, but I remember taking pictures of all the DVD. See, here I go. All the DVDs that we had, and all the video cassettes, just having some type of inventory. Because honestly, if it ever went missing, could you really name how many you had?
Yeah, no, and we learned real quickly with the filing claims, they're but was it an 80-inch TV or was it a 40-inch? So I'm
I have pictures. I have
receipts. Yeah. I have I have all the things. So yeah, definitely. I know PCS binders, when I was doing this was not a thing, but that's what the people are doing now, and it's so smart.
Yeah, I did that. I literally have that in my book.
No one told me. No, I did not know this was a thing. But genius, so smart. Yeah. Again, it just goes back to being organized.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And not getting overwhelmed, and again, and not waiting till last minute. I mean, we talked about that even just with, once you're going, really start digging in and getting comfortable with somebody, where their eyes and feet. So many times too, we're FaceTiming, right? Yeah. We're helping people find housing sight unseen, which is crazy. I know. The trust that is, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy that you jumped on with me today and shared about Fort Carson. And I know that, so you're with Keller Williams, so where do people find you? They want you, I'll make sure in the, in the comments that I've got all your contact information, but real quick, where do they find you? Do they follow you on Instagram? Where tell me all the things.
Instagram is great. I own Affinity Home Partners. We are a 3-person team. I have an active duty gentleman, buyer's agent, myself, and then I have another young military wife as well. And yeah, okay. We're Affinity Home Partners. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. We partner with AHRN as well to help people who need to find rentals and things like that. So
good. Yeah, good to know. Well, is there anything last minute you want to share, or anything you want to put out there about Fort Carson? Or
it's a beautiful place. I'm here for good. So never thought I'd be a mountain girl. Always thought for sure to go back to the beach, but yeah, this is home now. I love it. I encourage everybody to give it a shot, at least, because it's really beautiful and there's so much to do.
Well, you make me, I've never PCS there, but you sure make me feel more comfortable, just knowing a little bit about the area. And of course, I'm going to share all your information. So if any listeners are listening, someone, or you are moving to Fort Carson, Lauren Jerden is your girl. Thank you so much for your time, Lauren. And we hope to have you back another time. And if you come across anybody that has an outrageous story and they want to jump on the podcast and share firsthand that crazy experience, just let me know. We'd love to share.
For sure. Maybe we can link up this summer when you guys head out this way.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I think we were supposed to be there 4th of July week, but I think it's being pushed for one reason or another. So we'll stay in touch.
For sure. Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
Awesome. Thanks.